Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita session. We continue on our journey
Haribo.
through the exciting ninth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We're on text 20. Rose, you're very excited. You have something to say?
I'm saying hello from Brazil. I'm in Brazil.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Welcome
Thank
from
you.
Brazil.
Haribo.
Adi. Okay, so let us begin as we normally do in our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We left off, I believe we're on text 20, and I have scheduled text 20 through 30, but let's see how far we get because these next verses are chock full of wisdom, so I don't want to rush through it, but let's continue on our journey here. And text chapter 9, text 20, the most confidential knowledge. And the verse reads, the Sanskrit reads as follows. To Prai vidya mam samopa putta papa yagnair ishvaswar gatim prartayante te punyam ashadya sorendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. And it's translated as follows. Those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. So, this chapter 9 is called Raja Guhya Yoga, the yoga of the king of knowledge. In verses 20 through 30, Krishna is contrasting karma kanda religiosity. When we talk about the divisions of the Vedas, the divisions of the Vedas are made up in such a way as to bring us progressively to what's called the Siddhanta of the Vedas. The Siddhanta of the Vedas means the ultimate meaning. The Vedas are like a bridge, and like every bridge, it has a destination. That's what a bridge means, bridging one side to the other side. You go from New Jersey to New York. I'm in that mode of mind now because I'm going up to New York tomorrow. So you go in George Washington Bridge, you go from New Jersey over into New York. So the bridge is serving the purpose of getting you from New Jersey to New York or the other way, New York back to New Jersey. So similarly, the Vedas have different segments of it according to our level of consciousness. That's the interesting thing about the Vedas, is according to our level of consciousness, we are attracted to a different aspect or another. So when it's described karma kanda religiosity, what does that mean? Karma kanda means I have desires. I want to fulfill my desires. And what is the best way that I can fulfill my desires? And according to the Vedas, they have a whole section called Karma Kanda, which is different than Karma Yoga. It's not the same. Karma Kanda means I'm performing ritualistic activities so I fulfill my or achieve my desires. And one of the things that is mentioned here in Bhagavad Gita, and there'll be an explanation of that, is when people have the desire to go to the heavenly planets. So when the word heaven is used or heavenly is used in the Vedas, it's not in the same context as the Judeo-Christian religions, where heaven is the kingdom of God. In the Vedic literatures, heavenly planets or heaven does not mean the kingdom of God. It still means planets within this material universe. within this material universe, according to the Vedas, there's 14 planetary systems. There's seven um, heavenly planets, and they're progressively more and more heavenly till you get to the top one, Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. But they are heavenly in terms of life duration, bodily beauty, a level of enjoyment, etc., etc. This particular planet that we're on now, in the earthly realm, is considered Martya Loka. It's neither too heavenly. We do have some heavenly aspects to it and heavenly places. Prabhupada liked Hawaii, and he said Hawaii was like a heavenly planet. So it gives you an idea. I don't know how many of you have been to Hawaii. I lived in Puerto Rico, which Prabhupada called the East Coast Hawaii. And when I was there in Puerto Rico, it certainly was very heavenly in terms of weather. Fruits and vegetables grew very easily and very readily. The ocean, the beauty of the mountains in Puerto Rico, the beauty of the beaches in Puerto Rico. So all of these things there are indicative of a more sattvic environment. And as I said, in the heavenly planets, it becomes more and more sattvic, more higher, a longer life span, bodily beauty, all of these things are there. So the heavenly planet. So that's when it's described that those who study the Vedas, so the aspect of the Vedas is the Karmakanda section. There's three sections, khandas in the Vedas. The Karma Kanda section, where you do rituals in order to achieve the higher planetary systems when you pass away. There's Jnana Kanda, and Jnana Kanda is the section of knowledge. And then there's Upasana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda is when we get into worship, ultimately leading to bhakti, the bhakti worship, where we are not so concerned or not really concerned at all with the heavenly lifestyle and the long duration of life and the greater sense enjoyment, etc. When you get to the level of bhakti, you are selfless in your service and in your loving attitude towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the difference. So the sections of the Vedas are meant for, or attract people who want to go to different levels of understanding. So that is the Vedas themselves, and that's why people get very confused about the Vedas, because unless you really intently study the Vedas, you don't realize that the Vedas are not really just a hodgepodge of things. It's not like you're going to a smorgasbord and you're picking this out from the Karmakanda section and you're picking this out from the Jnanakanda section and you're doing some of this from the Upasana Kanda section and you're doing a little bhakti on the side, etc. It's not like that. When you according to your desire, you're choosing a path and you follow that path. And the whole purpose of following that path is elevation of consciousness. In other words, karmakanda is not meant just to keep you on a higher level of gratification. It's meant to fulfill your desires for a higher level of gratification, but it's also meant to teach you that that's not really the ultimate goal of life. Because why? It's temporary. Even the level of enjoyment may be greater and greater and greater according to the pujas that you perform, the rituals that you perform, the mantras that you chant. And that's another thing. People chant mantras, but they don't realize that some of those mantras are for karmakanda, for your sense enjoyment. And other mantras are for you to pay homage to a particular devata, like Agni or Surya or Chandra or any one of the in 33 million devatas that are there. When we get into bhakti, bhakti's focus is on developing a selfless love relationship with the absolute personality of God, and the supreme absolute truth, the supreme absolute personality of Godhead. And then there's a whole description which describes the interrelatedness between the devatas, the demigods, and the supreme Krishna, Vishnu, and the supreme Krishna. We can't even begin to get into it, especially in this chat. I would be spending our whole class period just on trying to make it clear what the interrelatedness is, and how doing certain mantras will get you a destination that may be higher elevation in consciousness than where you're at right now, but it's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, or the ultimate satisfaction, the ultimate santosh or contentment, comes when we're performing selfless, loving service to the Supreme. That's when the heart is really, really, truly satisfied. So, in this next 10 verses that we're going to do, Krishna's text 20 and 21 is describing material religion. And what material religion means is performing religious activities, pious activities, ritualistic activities that will give me fulfillment of my material desires. And then Krishna will also talk about temporary heavenly enjoyment. And then Krishna moves from that in 22 to exclusive devotion. And Krishna personally talks about how he will maintain his devotee. Then 23 to 25, Krishna talks about the worship of the various devatas, the various demigods. He doesn't get into it very deeply in terms of which demigod you worship for which material boon or whatever. He doesn't get into it very deeply, but he does, present the case that there is this type of worship which, will provide you with a higher level of material enjoyment, but will not bring you to the ultimate destination. Because if you remember, in the 8th chapter, when we studied the 8th chapter, I think it was texts 4 and 5, there's two verses, one right after the other, where Krishna says that what we're meditating on at the time of death propels us to that destination. In other words, what you're thinking about at the time of death, that's where you go. That's how you get to your destination, is by that what you're thinking about. So if our life has nothing to do with God and worship of God, and we don't cultivate any kind of mindset which is in connection to the Supreme, then all we have is the movie that is our life. We have frames from our life. And what happens is when we go through the movie of our life, because there are certain things in our life that we develop an attachment for, then that's what we think of. So if we think, for instance, of our wife, we're really attached to our wife, then we're actually thinking about a female. And that thought process puts us into the destination of a female body, and vice versa. And if we're thinking about our dog, if like the primary thing, like you see some people that are really, really into their dogs, more than their children, and they're really attached to their dogs, and they meditate on their dog at the time of death, then you can take that birth, because that is the frame, the freeze frame that you're focusing on at that point, and that is what's propelling you. That's psychic propulsion, that thought is propelling you to this particular destination. That's why, in my for those of you that attended the program that we had, the Bhakti Love Feast that we had, I spoke about that. I spoke about the necessity, if you're into yoga and you want to connect, you have to understand what you're connecting to. What is that contemplation? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, very nice description, Dhyayato Vishayam Pungsa Sangas Teshu Vijayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Krodha Vijayate Krodha Bhavati Sangmoha Smriti Vibramad Smriti Bramshad Buhinasha Pranashati. That verse describes the whole progression. Starts off Sangha, what you are associating with, what you are, he uses the word Sangha twice in two different lines there, saying that whatever you contemplate, whatever you are associating with mentally, then that contemplation you become attached to. And when you become attached to that contemplation, whatever it is, then that leads you to desiring that contemplation. If it's a woman, it leads you to meditating on how to be with that woman, how to enjoy the company of that particular woman. So the contemplation leads to attachment. Attachment leads to desire. Desire ultimately, it has two aspects to it. You strongly desire something, so the strength of that desire is there, and thus the amount of mental absorption we put into that is great. But if you obtain what you desire, and in the material realm, that even if you get what you want, whether it's money or a particular person or an education or a job, whatever, those are all very temporary things. And they're ultimately not satisfactory to the eternal spiritual soul. So what happens is that contemplation, desire, you desire something, you get it, and it's ultimately in the long run not completely satisfying. So there's frustration, or you don't get it at all. You may desire a certain job or a certain level of economic development, and you don't get it. So you become frustrated in that way. So that's why the next kama krodha, kama, the desire, the intense desire leads to krodha, anger, or frustration. So when that happens, then there is a kind of frustration, anger, and from that comes bewilderment, loss of intelligence, and then one spirals down, into this kind of inability to understand what is the higher goal of life, and one goes into avidya, further ignorance. So it's a very beautiful two verses in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which it explains it. So Krishna is talking about that. He gives us an example. 23 to 25, what does demigod worship get you? What are the limitations of the demigod worship? And then 26, Krishna now he morphs into simple devotional things, bhakti things that cultivate a mindset that is loving and selfless. So Krishna is showing the difference between, because when you analyze karmakandic rituals or even karma yoga rituals, they're not much different than the bhakti rituals. And so the result is very different. The result of bhakti rituals is attachment with a selflessness to the Supreme Lord and a desire to serve with devotion. Whereas the same rituals that are used, they're not exactly the same. The mantras will be different, and some of the aspects of the puja will be different, but it's like going through similar motions, but the destination and the end result of the mindset, the cultivation of the mindset that is there is very, very different. One is me centered, and the other one is God centered. And me, to please me, is the one mindset, and the cultivation in bhakti is everything to please the Supreme Lord. I do, if I do some puja, some offering of incense, some offering of flour, some offering of water, then, and I do that to the Supreme Lord. It's different when I'm doing it, and the mantras that I'm chanting are give me this, give me that. Very different kind of mindset that we're cultivating. So it's important to understand what is your destination in what you are doing. That's a very important, especially if you're into yoga, you're into the more Hindu perspective, because even amongst Hindus, if you ask a Hindu what is Hinduism, they won't be able to tell you. Once Srila Prabhupada had many times when he would visit a center, in the United States or Europe, etc., the devotees would set up interviews with various people, either politicians or religious people or academic people, etc. So when Prabhupada was in Philadelphia once, they had the Hindu professor from Temple University come to see him. And he happened to be Indian also, but he was also the professor of Hinduism at Temple University. So the first question that Prabhupada asked him, Prabhupada said, so you are a professor of Hinduism? And the man said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, that's what I do. And he said, so can you explain to me very clearly what is Hinduism? And the man looked at him and he said, no, I can't. He said, I can't explain very clearly what Hinduism. It's very complicated and very difficult to understand. So then Prabhupada said, so you are a professor of Hinduism teaching students about Hinduism, which you don't understand. So the thing about it is real clarity. We need clarity when we are approaching a spiritual lifestyle which is coming out of the Vedas. And the Vedas mean the Upanishads, it means the Puranas, it means the Itihasyas like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. All of these are, part of the Vedic literatures. So, and when you get into that, I'm on a roll, so I might as well keep going. Like, for instance, the Puranas, there's 18 major Puranas. There's many more than that. But when we talk about major Puranas, major Puranic thought, then what we're talking about is 18 major Puranas. And if you have an interest in knowing which 18 they are, I can send it to you. I can't give it to you right now, too much time. So out of those 18, 6 are sattvic, 6 are rajasic, and 6 are tamasic. And what does that mean? When they're sattvic, they are geared toward the person who is cultivating a sattvic mind, which in the practice of yoga, one of the many things that yoga is supposed to yield, if practiced correctly with the proper teacher, is a sattvic mind. So the 6 Puranas Bhagavad Purana or the Srimad Bhagavatam, Garuda Purana, and there's a couple of others. They are attractive. With the message is geared toward the sattvic mind, and you'll see that the Puranas are geared towards a particular personality in particular. So the sattvic Puranas are geared towards Vishnu and Krishna in particular. And then the Tamasic are geared towards Durga and Shiva. And the Rajasic is geared towards Brahma, like that, because they are the lords of the gunas. Shiva is in charge of the tamagun, or the mode of ignorance. And it's not that he is in the mode of ignorance, he's not, but he's in charge of it. That is his duty as a guna avatar, as the lord of one of the gunas. Brahma is in charge of rajagun, passion. So his duty is, to deal with things rajasic. That's why Brahma is the creator, because one of the aspects of Rajagun, is creation, to create, to produce. And then Vishnu is the Lord or the master of Sattvagun. So approaching him is through meditation, through philosophy, etc. So these are the kinds of things that get kind of jumbled up when we don't study the Vedas properly. We get confused because they're mixing things that should not be mixed and are not meant to be mixed. Certain mantras, certain pujas, etc. They're not meant to be mixed, but they have a very specific function in terms of cultivation of the mindset. And one of the main things in Ayurveda, for instance, is called pragya aparad. That is one of the main, and that means misuse of intelligence. When we misuse intelligence, then we make wrong decisions. Like, for instance, misuse of intelligence means I know something is detrimental to me, but I still do it. That's called pragya aparad. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it. Like my mother, God rest her soul, she's a wonderful person. But she always used to say to me, yeah, I've been smoking cigarettes all my life. I should give it up. And she had the intelligence to realize that smoking cigarettes was not good for you, not good for your health. But she misused her intelligence to rationalize and not to say, I'm going to quit. Like when people quit a bad habit, whether it's smoking or drinking, they're determined. Without that determination, and that determination comes from your intelligence. But if your intelligence is weak, then the intelligence is controlled by the mind. Whereas it should be the opposite. The intelligence should control the mind. But if the intelligence is weak and we're not cultivating a strong, pure intelligence by virtue of study, wisdom, hearing from pure devotees, pure personalities, if we're not doing things like that, then the intelligence, it gets weakened. So and then the mind takes over, because the mind's a very powerful thing. Krishna says, if you remember, in the 6th chapter, Krishna says, the mind is the best of friends or the worst of enemies. So what does that mean? If the mind is not controlled, if it's whimsical, if you allow it to do whatever it wants to do and to dictate to you whatever is best for gratification, then your intelligence will be eroded by that. But if we perform yoga in the true sense, that we are regulating our life, that we are understanding what is beneficial and what is detrimental. For instance, in bhakti, in the Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction, Rupa Goswami gives six things which are beneficial to bhakti. Um, Utsaha nischayadharya tat karma pravartanam. So, utsaha, enthusiasm, determination, patience, study, association with advanced personalities, and not associating with people that'll bring you down. These are six things which are very, very beneficial for your devotional service. And Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, in terms of Ashtanga Yoga, he talks about yamas and niyamas, things that you are to understand, which will be beneficial for you in your interaction with the world and in with your interaction with your inner self. So this is really how we are to understand everything, to how we are to sort through it. Intelligence means discrimination. When we cultivate a strong intelligence, it helps us to understand things in the proper context. And especially when you get into the world of the Vedas and the yoga world, there's a lot of things there, especially nowadays, especially in the Western world. What to speak of the Western world, even in India, that have been jumbled up in the course of time, because this is the age of Kali Yuga. And what does that mean? The age of Kali Yuga? People are more influenced by Tamagun, and people are more influenced by avidya or ignorance. And people can't see things very clearly or understand things very clearly. So what has happened in the couple of thousand years of the Kali Yuga that we're already in, and the 427,000 years that are left in Kali Yuga, things will only become more and more jumbled, because right now people are accepting things as yoga, which are not really yoga. At best, it can be considered exercise, and things are getting jumbled up, and they'll become more and more jumbled up, and ultimately what yoga is and meant to do will be lost, and people will not even be aware of the philosophical and psychological dimension of yoga, that they'll get a nice body and be happy and be satisfied with that. But that is really not the ultimate goal of yoga. So Krishna is going to give us all of these things in the next 10 verses. So let's move on. I gave you a kind of a preamble there just to set the stage for what we're going to read. All right. So let's move on to text 21. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So Krishna is describing here. Okay, you follow the karmakandic section. You perform the rites and rituals to get you to the higher planets. You enjoy, but the nature of karma is that what you are meant to enjoy is temporary, it's limited. In other words, it's like a bank account. If you put money, let's say you make a deposit, a $10,000 deposit, and then for a whole year, you make no other deposit, and you just keep drawing off of that 10,000. Well, what's going to happen eventually? Especially in this day and age where the food prices are like twice what they used to be. Gas prices are nearly double. If that continues, the people are going to be bankrupt in no time. So this is what I'm saying, that in karma and under the laws of karma, under the jurisdiction of karma, under the karma conduct section, which you're still accruing either good karma or bad karma, it's temporary and it's limited and it'll only last you just like your bank account. If you're not putting anything into it, then or you're putting in less than you're withdrawing, you're taking out of it, then it's only going to last for so long. So Krishna says that those who follow the Vedic rituals, they drink the soma juice. This is a nectar, almost like a nectar of immortality, perform sacrifices and worship for pious rewards. They attain those heavenly planets and enjoy celestial pleasures. But when that what they have accumulated is exhausted, they come back to a lower form of birth. And it's considered that the earthly planet is a lower form of birth than the higher planetary systems. So it describes this karma, this performance of rituals and mantras and study and sacrifices and charity. All of those things are done to obtain a higher birth, which Krishna is saying here is temporary. It won't last. You'll eventually fall to a lower position again. So what does lower position mean? It means more suffering. It means shorter lifespan. It means a heavier karmic load to experience. So many things like that. So text 22, but those who always worship, so now Krishna is making a distinction between if you do the rituals, if you do the rites, the rituals, the pujas, the mantras, etc., to gain the higher status, then you'll get it. You'll remain within the wheel of samsara. You'll eventually, more than likely, experience a lower birth on a lower planetary system. And within this universe, there's Bhuloka, which is the earthly realm. There's Bhuvar Loka, which is the subtle realm of spirits and celestial beings. There is Swarloka, that's heaven. That's where heaven is, and that's where Indra is, the king of the heavens. And then there's Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and ultimately Satyaloka. And that's Brahmaloka, and that's the abode of Lord Brahma. That's the highest abode. And Prabhupada said that that is where Lord Jesus Christ ascended to this Brahmaloka. And then there are the lower planetary systems, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala Loka. These are the lower planetary systems. So our Earth is right in the middle of those, the 14 planets that are there. So Krishna describes that. He describes, yeah, you can go there, but ultimately it's temporary. It's limited, and you will go back to another realm unless you learn that the highest level of consciousness is what Krishna is now describing in text 22. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So with Krishna, there is 4 categories of meditation. It's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. Those 4 categories are what you can meditate on and what will serve you in terms of your worship or your devotion. Nama means the names. That's why in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, the chanting is very, very important. Not only the chanting in kirtan, but the japa meditation. always in especially in the bhakti yoga world or realm, there's always emphasis on the names of God, whether it's the private meditation or whether it's the kirtan meditation with other people. So that Krishna is saying that if you worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, that's rupa. Nama means the names of God. Guna means the qualities of God. Rupa means the form. So that's why bhakti is so form heavy. You see pictures. Those of you that have been to my house, you see pictures in every room, and they're beautiful pictures of Krishna and performing Leela with the gopis, Krishna with the cows, Krishna, and many different things. Krishna's devotees, like the six Goswamis. I'm looking at the picture of the six Goswamis right above where I'm sitting here. Picture of Srila Prabhupada. There's a heavy emphasis on form because the meditation on that form, it's like a picture. When you meditate on the form of a transcendental being, like Krishna, the supreme transcendental being, it's like you're engraving within your samskara, within your mind impressions, that image, that form. So what do we get back to the eighth chapter? What does the eighth chapter say? The eighth chapter says what you're thinking at the time of death. So nama is sound vibration. You're hearing the names of God. Very attractive to Krishna if you're chanting Krishna's names. Just like if you're, let's say you're at a party, right? And you walk into the room and then you hear someone saying your name. Immediately catches your attention, right? Let's just say Victor is coming over to my house, coming to a bhakti love feast at my house, and he walks into the room, and then someone's saying, "Well, Victor," as soon as you hear your name, it's like you're drawn to it. Krishna, the same thing. As soon as Krishna hears you uttering his name, he's drawn to that. You catch his attention. So nama rupa, the form. That's why we're so form heavy in deity worship, the ritual of deity worship, the meditation. There's called smarnam. That means the remembrance of the form, the various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You try to put that in your memory, and the more you do so, samskara means impression. The more that image gets burned into your memory bank. And then you can call upon that. You can call upon that remembrance, that samskara, and that will help you to evolve spiritually and help you in the cultivation of your relationship with that. Just like when you meet somebody and you're very attracted to them and the way they look, right? And you start thinking about them, the blonde hair and the blue eyes, or the black hair and the brown eyes, and the different bodily features, and you start thinking of that person. It has like an impression. It makes an impression on you. So this is how we are set up, how we are geared. We take in image through senses. So bhakti is meant to utilize your senses to take in those images, those sounds, those smells, those tastes, those things that you touch that will help to for you to immediately set up a connection with the Supreme Personality in that way. So Krishna is talking about that in this particular verse 23. Let me keep track of time. 23, he says, those who are devotees of other gods. Let me get to 23 here. Yeah. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship me because they may be avatars, but in the Bhagavad Purana, it says that Krishna is avatari, is the source of avatars. And Lord Brahma, in his Brahma Samhita, he describes that there are avatars, there are various incarnations, very powerful beings, but they have their source in the avatari. And therefore, Lord Brahma says, Ishwara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Kara Karanam, the cause of all causes. So, those who are devotees of other gods and worship them with faith actually are worshiping me indirectly. Oh, son of Kunti, but they do so in the wrong way. They misconstrue the position of that personality because they may have read something out of the Puranas that are in Tamagun and meant for those in Tamagun, so that they'll misconstrue or misunderstand their position, and Krishna says they'll do so in a wrong way. And then text 24, I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. And Krishna says that previously too in the 5th chapter. He says, Bhoktaram Jagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. So Bhoktaram Jagna Tapasam means master of all sacrifices. All sacrifices ultimately come to me. They can come through a devata, a demigod. They can come, but they come through them, and ultimately he's the resting place of all sacrifices. This is in Bhagavad Gita. So I'm and Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, that we in this world, when we are in ignorance, we cling. We cling to things. We cling to our bodily identification and all of its layers of designations. We cling to things that we accumulate during the course of our life, the car, the money, the house, all of the peripheral things. We cling to, we become attached to those things, but those are temporary. And Krishna is saying in that particular verse I just quoted, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, everything is mine. Everything comes from me, belongs to me. And then Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, everyone is looking for nice relationship, whether it's a friend relationship, it's a lover relationship, it's a parental relationship. We're all looking for a beautiful relationship. And Krishna says, Suridam, that the heart, Ridam, Su, the best heart. I am your best friend. I am within your heart. I am your best friend. Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Sarva means all, Bhutanam means living entities. So in all living entities, Suridam, I'm your best friend. I'm in your heart. That's what he means. If he's Paramatma, well, your best friend is not the Paramatma in your heart. The best friend is not. The best friend is in your heart, and at the time of death is still within your heart and stays within your heart. So this is an important thing to note, in terms of our relationships. We understand we want relationships. We need relationships, and the best and that's natural. That's normal. But if we don't add the relationship between the soul and the supreme soul, all other relationships which are of this world are like so many zeros. You can have 1,000 zeros. But what's the value of that? Add it up. Go ahead, I'll get out a calculator and add up 1,000 zeros. Okay, you got the answer. So 1,000 zeros. But if you put one in front of the 1,000 zeros, that gives you so much value. So it is normal to want relationship. It is normal to look at beautiful form, admire beautiful form. All those things are normal. They're intrinsic to our very being. But in bhakti, what is understood is that there is an supreme form that we are attracted to. There is supreme person that we can have a loving relationship with. It's not that we ignore the relationships here, it's just that we understand them in the proper context. That's the thing. Studying the philosophy and psychology of yoga puts things into proper context. And when they're placed into proper context, then we're able to activate our life in such a way that we receive the ultimate reward or the ultimate benefit of this human form of life. So therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down, which means as long as you remain the eternal soul in the wheel of birth, death, and rebirth, the wheel of samsara, there is the possibility that you can elevate, but you can come down from that elevated demigod-like position in the heavenly planets. You can come back down to Martyloka, or you can go to the lower planetary systems, or you can even take a birth as an animal. So you can ride the escalator of species according to the Vedas, and even now science admits there's at least 8 million species on the earth, and the Vedas say there are 8,400,000 species that exist throughout the universe. So you can ride that escalator if you want, or recognize the good fortune with a heart full of gratitude, the good fortune that you've achieved this human form of life, and you can use this human form of life to cultivate the supreme relationship, the selfless, loving relationship of service to your beloved. And that's what Krishna is teaching in this 9th and 10th chapter, Bhakti Yoga, is that. So he says, you'll fall down if you don't get to that point. Text 25, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Again, cultivating that mindset. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. There's types of puja and ritual where you worship your ancestors. There's even cultures that are based on ancestor worship. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will come live with me. They'll come to the eternal spiritual abode called Goloka Vrindavan. And there's only pure love and pure loving relationships. That's all that exists there. There is nothing which is separate from the love relationship with Krishna. Very famous verse is text 26. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept that. Simple, simple offerings. Krishna is asking. He's not saying patram pushpam palam toyam. The patram, the leaf, pushpam, the flower, palam, the fruit, and water. You offer me with love and devotion. Why? Krishna doesn't need your leaf, doesn't need your flower, your water. He doesn't need any of these things. What he wants And what he receives is the devotion in which the offering is made. He doesn't want to complicate it by saying, I'll only accept sweet rice and pakora and puri and cooked in ghee. And you can do that if you have the ability to do that. But Krishna is just saying, if you offer me a tulsi leaf, if you offer me a mango, if you offer me pure water, if you offer me a rose, a gardenia, and you're offering it with devotion. Every morning, we feel the blessing of being here in South Florida and having lots of flowers at our disposal. So every morning, we try to make a gorgeous flower offering, a fruit offering, water offering, and then we'll cook and offer that. And we try to do that because Krishna says, I will accept it. How much more beneficial can that be? Text 27. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti. It's another name for Arjuna. Arjuna was the son of Kunti. Do that as an offering to me. So bhakti means you don't stop doing things. You just start doing things in connection with Krishna, in connection with the Supreme. You may be a bhakta of Ram or bhakta of Vishnu, bhakta of Shiva. You do with that mindset. You do it as an offering. And then it will be accepted and sanctified. That's what prasadam is. Prasadam is different than food. Food is something which is prepared not with the consciousness that it's an offering, it's a sacrifice. And therefore, every bite of food that we eat, whether it's vegetarian or not, there's reaction to. Vegetarian food, there's less of a reaction because there's less violence. And eating of meat, fish, or eggs, there's more violence, so there's a heavier reaction. But, there's reaction. So we want to get free from that reaction, not free from action. And therefore, the three divisions of action, of karma, are good action, you get good results. Bad action, you get bad results. And akarma, it's action that is this verse. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, that's all action. Doing is action. Eating is action. Offering, it's an action. Giving away is an action. Whatever austerities you perform. So the action is there. It's still there. But when it's offered to the Supreme, then it's free from reactions. And when you gear your life in a reaction-free mode, in a reaction-free way, then that helps to get you out of the wheel of samsara. That's bhakti. This verse telling us how to do it, what to do it, when to do it. Text 28. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work in its auspicious and inauspicious results. Karma vikarma. He's talking about akarma. You'll be freed from bondage, which is the result of action. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So the principle of renunciation is not that you give up things. That's not the bhakti principle. Bhakti principle is not detachment. Bhakti principle is attachment. We have the nature to be attached. So if we attach ourselves to the lotus feet of the Supreme, and as a result of that attachment, all that we do, all that we eat, all that we offer, etc., is done in that mood and that out of that attachment. And the various processes, the evolving processes of bhakti from Shraddha, initial one, faith, from faith to sadhu sangha, association, from association, bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means we actually do a sadhana to please the Supreme. From that, from performance of bhajana kriya, we anartha nibriti, all the dirty things within our heart is getting cleansed. We come to the platform, the next platform, when that cleanse our heart, to nishta. That means we're fixed, we're determined, we're convinced, we're not going anywhere. We're progressing on our journey to link up with the Supreme. And then from there, from nishta, then you get ruchi, taste, asakti, attachment, bhava, mood, and ultimately prema, divine, pure love for the Supreme. That's the way we go to Krishna. And then text 29, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Which means reciprocation. If you turn your back on me, okay, I'll turn your back on you. But that not really. I'll retract that statement. Krishna never turns his back. He just doesn't make the effort because he reciprocates. So if you're making no effort, then how is he going to reciprocate? You're not making any effort. As soon as you make some effort, then he reciprocates. And then text 30, we'll stop here. And this is a very profound verse, and this indicates the power of bhakti right here, right now. And I'm not going to be able to explain it fully, so we will pick up. I'll introduce you to this verse. Your homework is to meditate on this verse and see, deliver to me next week. By the way, I'm not going to be giving class. I'll be in New York, and although I'll have a great intention to do a class, I'm usually too busy running around, so I'm not going to have class next week. So, but the following week, 2 weeks from today. Today is what, the 9th? So then next week will be the 16th, and the next week will be the 23rd, I believe. So next Tuesday class will be on the 23rd of June, and your assignment is study this verse, text 30, and see what you come up with. And you know what? I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to leave it at that. Text 30 in the 9th chapter. I want you to read it over. If you have Prabhupada's Gita, you can read the commentary because he explains it very, very clearly and very comprehensively. If you don't, read the verse and then see what you come up with. Make sense of it. I'm going to read it right now just to tease you. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in pure bhakti and devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. And I'm going to leave you with that. And like I said, if you have Prabhupada's Gita, you can probably go online if you don't have it. He explains that verse very fully, as do the previous acharyas, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Any one of the previous Bhakti acharyas explain that verse very clearly. So it means, just to give you a little, it means we are habituated to act in a particular way. But if we have the determination to to practice bhakti, but we make mistakes, we deviate maybe a day or a week from the path, but we retain the determination to love and serve Krishna. You're still considered a saintly person on the path, rightly on the path. So I'll leave it at that with that kind of brief explanation. And you all read it, meditate on it, and then we'll start the class the next Tuesday we meet, which is the 23rd, with that. Okay, so I'll open it up. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Um, okay, thank you, Victor. That's from Prabhupada's verse and purport, right? Thank
Yes.
you very much for doing that. So Victor has kindly, because he is our IT guy and computer guy, and he knows how to do things very quickly. So he's given us this. All you have to do is click on that link if you don't have Prabhupada's Gita, and you can read the verse and the purport there. Thank you, Victor, very, very much for doing that.
You're welcome.
So does anyone have any question or comment that they would like to, any observation? What did you get out of this particular discussion? Any realization that you had? Any question that came about during the course? Please feel free to speak.
I have a question.
And that is Rose.
Yes, this is Rose from Brazil.
Rose from Brazil.
Yes, from Brazil, right?
Okay.
And it's cold here. It's winter. Um, well, the question I have is at the beginning of your speech, you said that at the moment of our death, if we're thinking of someone, a figure, like let's say, if you a man, you're thinking of your wife, and then you may be born with the body of a woman, right? If
Right,
you are a woman, if you're thinking of your husband
right.
or whoever is like your a person who's important to you, so you be born as a man in a
Right.
man's body, right? But what if we think?
Just let me, I don't want to cut you up. I just want to say that's kind of a simplified understanding. There's a lot that goes into really what's going on at the time of death. But yes, that's like the general principle. Yes.
Okay, within this general principle, let's say if you're thinking about our child, my son, like you
Right.
love, adore your son, and then you die adoring your son. Does it mean that you're going to be born with a boys, like as a man, or because it's a boy?
Yes. There's a very strong possibility that if your contemplation is your son, I mean, that's the frame, the movie of your life, and that's like your primary attachment, and that's the frame that freezes in your consciousness at that time. Yes, there's a strong possibility that you could take the body of a male at that point in time. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's going on. That's why bhakti yoga, when you practice bhakti yoga, it's important to try to get to the stage of bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means you all have shraddha, you all have some faith. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here week after week. You have some faith that you're going to learn something from the Bhagavad Gita. You're going to hear something that's going to help you in your life, something that's going to illuminate your consciousness. So faith is already there. And we have faith in any case. Faith is just kind of an intrinsic principle that exists in humanity. But the next stage is sadhu sangha, where you actually seek out people who can further explain the wisdom of the Gita, the wisdom of the Bhagavatam, and they can explain it to you very clearly. Seek out that person. And then when you do those two things, when you have faith that you're learning something that's beneficial, and then you're seeking out personalities who can make it even clearer, then the eventual outcome of those two elements of the evolutionary in bhakti is you want to do bhajana kriya. You want to perform bhajan. That means you want to regularly do kirtan. You want to regularly do meditation. In our case, in our bhakti tradition, japa, and that means chanting the names of God on beads. You probably have all seen the Tulsi beads. In the Shiva tradition, they use the Rudraksha beads, seeds. So, that meditation, so what it means is now you have a formalized uh, process that you follow on a regular basis. And that's called bhajana kriya. And when you do that, it cleanses the heart. That's one of the preliminary results of bhajana kriya. You cleanse your heart. That's called anartha nibriti. Anartha means the dirty things, the unwanted things, which are clogging up your purity of heart, which is giving you inclination towards things which are not beneficial for you. So anartha nibriti means you're getting rid of the anarthas by virtue of your bhajana kriya, your action. Kriya means action. Bhajana means your actions of devotion towards the Supreme. So that's the whole process that's there.
Okay, thank you.
And ultimately, what it means for you, if you become a devotee, it means that the freeze frame that'll be there for you is the form of Krishna and Radha. That's where we are striving for, to freeze frame it there, because in the in the process of our life, having chanted so many names in japa, in kirtan, if you're particularly attracted to kirtan, you may have the melody and the mantra in your mind at that time. Like
I
when my
hope
mother,
so.
I hope so too. When my mother passed, I had Prabhupada chanting kirtan 24/7. So I hope, I pray that mom, who knew of Prabhupada, she knew of my journey and all that. I hope and pray that melody and that mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, was in her mind. There was a guy at the Sunday, the Bhakti Love Feast this Sunday. I met. His name is Steve, and I forget who invited him. Maybe it was Doug and Sim or somebody invited him. I know Trish, you invited Janelle, right? Yeah, Steve, I think, was invited, if I'm not mistaken, by Doug and Sim. Anyway, he told me, I said to him, is this your first time? He said, no, I visited the Hare Krishna temple in San Diego when I was out on the West Coast, and I visited there and I met some people there, and they became very friendly. And then I moved from San Diego to Florida, and I didn't have any contact. He said, but for a whole year, the mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, stuck in my mind. He said I couldn't get it out of my mind. That's the principle. The principle is we're trying to get to that point, not like we're just all the time, we're just we're not able to converse with anybody, but there's that backdrop, or there's that accessibility, that readiness, um, um, uh, there's that readiness to remember. I have a question. What did Prabhupada say about Hinduism? Well, Prabhupada said really Hinduism doesn't exist. Hindu is not a word. This is one of the explanations, Bharat Shrestha, that Prabhupada said. He said Hinduism is a Muslim word, and it means the people across the Sindh River. But because in the particular dialect that they spoke, their S's came out like an H. it became Hindu, and that that identified the group of people that lived basically in India, because I think the Sindh River goes through Pakistan. So the Muslims were identifying India is very has all these different aspects of their culture. You have the Gujaratis, you have the Marwaris, you have the Rajputs, you have the Maharashtrians, you have you have all these different groups in India. It's so diverse. So, but they were referring to that whole body, and eventually it became linked up with the Vedas too, the Vedic literatures. But that's why the scholars have a hard time identifying Hinduism, because really, what's the reference point other than that? The misconception. That's the reference point. Hinduism, you can explain it. There's so many parts to what people consider Hinduism. There's Shaivites, there's the Durgas, the Shakti. There's so many aspects of the philosophy. There's the Karma Mimamsa philosophy, the Nyaya philosophy, yoga, the Vedanta. There's so many it's that's why people don't even try to define Hinduism, because it really doesn't refer to something that's homogenous. It refers to a group of people on the other side of the Sindh River, which includes all of what I just said and more. That's what Prabhupada said about Hinduism. That's why sometimes devotees say we're not Hindus. But in one way we are, and in another way we're not. The emphasis is on not the Dharma of India, but the Sanatan Dharma, which means the Dharma of the soul. We're not worried about the Dharma of their Dharma of the soul is what we're worried about. And that's where our unity lies. That's where we can function harmoniously. Not in one ethnic group or one religion. We function harmoniously when we identify and recognize and relate to the fact that we're soul. A soul that can be on a Christian path to link up with God. A soul that can be on a Judaic path to link up with God. A soul that can be on a Muslim or Islamic path that can link up with God. The point that Prabhupada made is, if your path is linking you up in love with God, and all the subsequent characteristics or attributes of your heart, which means kindness, compassion, mercy, friendliness, respect, when that manifests and you start developing your love for God, that's the path. So this, my way or hell is not really conducive with cultivating a love relationship with God, because that means you're dismissing all of God's children because they're not on your path. And that's not the understanding of the Gita or the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. That's not the understanding that we get from that. Trish, do you have something you want to say?
Well, a lot of what strengthened my yoga practice was, we've been doing this for more than a year now. And my biggest takeaway is how to apply it, that yoga is a methodology on how to live my life. It's not just asana and my meditation, but incorporating that spiritual aspect really helped me put an understanding to what I was doing and expand my practice. And expand my relationship with the Supreme. So thank you so much.
Let me tell you a little exercise that you can do, and if any of you relate to what I say now, but for Chris, Trish, what you can do is you can go to that verse that we studied, because Bhagavad Gita is not just meant to be lofty philosophy, but not implement in your life. Go back to that verse. I believe it was 27, right? And then make a category. Yat Karoshi, whatever you do. So you make a category. What I do. You put your name, Trish Black, what I do. And then you list what you do. And then you move to the next, what you eat. You make a category. Trish, what Trish eats in the course of the day. Whatever you offer. Okay. Then you meditate on that. What is the offering? What is that aspect of my life? And there may not be an aspect of your life that involves offering. So then you can think, how do I put that in my life? What's the process for putting that into my life? Then you go whatever you offer or give away. Maybe you do or maybe you don't give in charity, but then you put that category down. What do I give away? Right? And then whatever austerities you perform. So, what austerities do I perform? Do I rise early in the morning? That's considered an austerity. Am I vegetarian? That's considered an austerity. Do I go do kirtan regularly? That's an austerity. And you put down all your austerities. You make that category, and then you say how whatever you do, what I do, how can I link that? How do I link my job? This is a big question I get, especially from the Indian community, right, Bart Trishas? Indian families are always asking, I go to work. How do I see Krishna in my work? And I've gotten that question over the years a million times. Yeah. Basically, it's number one, everyone is a soul, part and parcel of God. Number two, that soul is in a particular body and mind complex. Number three, that body and mind complex, it has been conditioned by the modes of material nature. And, if your boss is an aggressive jerk, you can see that soul as being in that body and mind, which has been conditioned by the mode of material nature, which that reflects that kind of attitude, because all the attitudes reflect the influence of the modes of material nature. And we'll get into that in the 14th and 18th chapter of the Gita, where there's descriptions of all kinds of things that we do under the influence of the modes of material nature. Krishna will say, when you act in Tamagun, you act in this way. When you act in Rajagun, you act in this way. And when you act in Sattvagun, you act in this way. When you accumulate knowledge in Tamagun, it's like this. So Krishna gives us. So when you have those categories and you list what do you do during the course of the day, I rise early in the morning. What do you do when you rise early in the morning? Like I can tell you really clearly, I rise early in the morning, I go and I shower. That's the first thing I do. I go into the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I do what I have to do, and then I shower. Then I come out and I put on clean clothes, and then I go into the temple room. And then I turn the lights on to the altar and pay my respects. And I can give you almost a step by step of what I do. So when you do that, then you say, okay, how do I connect this to God? And if you don't know, then you come back to me. Okay, Lakshmi, I did what you said. And so here's my list of what I do. I'm doing this. How do I connect it? Give me some ideas how this might be connected to God. And that would be a very practical outline to be on that level of where all that you do, all that you offer, all that you give away, all the austerities, all the charities, etc. Does that sound practical?
Yeah. It's like when
And
you're trying to figure out, how to improve your diet, you keep a food journal.
exactly.
To map it
Lifestyle
out.
journal.
Hmm.
Lifestyle journal. When am I going to go to bed? What do I do before I go to bed? Do I watch TV? Do I go on the computer screen, read the news, and meditate on Donald Trump? What all you just lifestyle journal. You just put down what do you do? What's your lifestyle, and how can I improve, make my lifestyle more sattvic? But this is very similar to that, and it'll help you see all that you do, all that how you can immerse yourself in that and still be in the world.
Right.
Great.
Thank you.
Can
You're
I just
welcome.
real quick? I mean, I don't want to hold you guys back.
Okay.
Yeah, real quick.
Shoot.
Yeah, because when you mentioned that when your mom was about to die, that you had Prabhupada, um, chanting. Uh, I was in the hospital with my brother, and he was in a coma, but he was like he was leaving his body. So I held his hand, and I'm going singing Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare, and he squeezed my hand. He did. I felt that. I was like, wow. I said, come on, brother, sing with me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then he left his body. So I really hope that.
Oh, I can tell you most definitely that has helped him a lot.
I
Whether,
hope.
uh, going back to Godhead is a whole other story, a whole other level of purity. But you doing that, that was like the absolute best thing that you could do because it pierces the coverings of the material universe and it actually opens up a portal to the spiritual world. So he may not have chanted before in his life, but that sound vibration is so potent. If it was able to, just like Steve, the new man that I met at the Bhakti Love Feast, that stayed with him for a year. The Hare Krishna mantra stayed with him for a year. So imagine imagine what your brother was going through, leaving his body, everything that he knows. If you don't cultivate an awareness of you're the soul, eternality, that means the sum and substance of everything that you've focused on, concentrated on for the last X amount of years prior to your dying, you're losing. It's being stripped away. Your family, gone. Your pet, gone. Your husband, wife, gone. Your children, gone. Your friends, gone. So imagine the state of mind that one is in when that's all they have. That's why death is so frightening. The whole notion that everything is going to be stripped away from you, there's nothing that you can do. And there's nothing that your relatives can do except what you did. You gave your brother something tangible, spiritual, eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge. You gave him a sound vibration that could stay with him. And who knows how that influenced. Who knows the magnitude of importance that has for your brother. So my respects to you for having the presence of mind to do that. Thank you very much on behalf of your brother. Thank you very much for being such a conscious being. Very
Yes.
happy that you. All right, I've spoken enough. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I appreciate your association, and I'll see you. Please make note of it. I'll send a reminder. Make note of it. Not next week, but the week after, we'll resume our studies. And we're going to start, Trish, with 30, okay? So you guys review that, meditate on that, read Prabhupada's purport, and then we'll talk about 30 in great depth. Thank you very much. And until we meet again, have a happy, healthy, and holy week.
Hari
Very
Bol.
Hare
good.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.